Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for everybody coming. This is overwhelming. Actually, when Mike Arbs, he usually does understate things a little bit, said that we're going to have a small gathering of a few people from Halls, because you haven't really spent a lot of time up there. I'm picturing a small group of about 10 folks. So when I came in today, this is really overwhelming. But I can tell you, as a first-time candidate running, it means so much to have this kind of support. You know, sometimes you think about why you're running, and sometimes you always remind yourself why you're running, because everybody that's ran, it's hard work, but you keep thinking about the folks in Hancock County, and you think about the folks in Johnson County, and all the people that you meet across the way, and you know that's why you're running. But there's a second level of it too. It's all the people that believe in you and that come out to events like this and support you, and so you also know that you owe it to them, and so it just makes me want to work that much harder. So I really, again, appreciate you guys being here. A few thank yous. I want to thank our two county mayors, Mayor Yates, Mayor Ottinger. I don't know if you guys saw this. People ask, well, how's it going? We had 22 East Tennessee County mayors all endorse us all at once, led by these two mayors. That's unheard of, 14 months out. So that's an incredible amount of support from East Tennessee. So I really appreciate it. Senator Briggs, I appreciate your support. Appreciate you being here. It's been just so overwhelming to see all the public support across the state. Also, I want to thank Robert for the work that he's doing in Hancock County. So I wasn't planning on talking about this, but since he brought it up, just so you know, this is a really big project that we're working on in the state. We haven't really promoted it very well. We had something called the Rural Task Force, which I will talk about in a moment, but we created the Rural Task Force. This is about helping our distressed counties. We have 19 counties in our state that are in the bottom 10% in the entire United States in poverty and income and unemployment. But the very bottom county, number 95 in our state, is Hancock County. And we went up to Hancock County and saw the situation that they were in. Hancock County, for those that haven't been there, Sneedville, there's no interstate, there's no railroad. It's a beautiful place, but it's in a valley that's really hard to get to. 9.4% unemployment, but it's a small county. There's only 220 people that are unemployed there. So as we looked at it, we thought, even though it's a tough situation, we could solve this. We started having some conversations. Long and short, we created something we call Project 95. Again, we haven't really promoted the Project 95, but Project 95 is where we brought everybody from the state together. ETSU's Institute for Public Health, Department of Transportation, Education, Labor, Tennessee Board of Regents, our department, and all decided if we all put all of our resources and concentrate them on this one little county, what could we do? Long story short, as you're looking at Hancock County, what kind of jobs could you create in Hancock County? Well, in Hancock County, it is hard to get a factory in there. No factory would probably want to go. But if you could create a call center there, call center in Knoxville is probably not going to be the best job. And I know at running a call center here in Knoxville that you have pretty high turnover, so it's hard to keep folks. But in Hancock County, it would be the absolute best job in the county. And so we created a concept of creating a 200-person call center. And we went to HUD, we went to the state, we went to multiple different places. We managed to raise $2 million to be able to create this call center. I'll tell you, one of my most emotional and rewarding days was when the day we went up to Sneedville about 7 months ago, something like that. And we're sitting around a table with about 20 people. The mayor's there. Some of you might know Thomas Harrison. He's about 6'9" and 320 pounds, a really big guy, but has a heart that's even bigger. He loves his community.
He's Robert's brother-in-law too, by the way.
Is he? I did not know that.
Well, let's not spread that too much.
I love his wife, and your niece is going to be the teenage campaign chair for the Boy for Governor campaign.
Oh God.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
she's a fun plug. I didn't know that. That's it. So we get together, and he's saying how they desperately need these jobs, but they got to try to raise us $2 million to build the building. And so far within the community and a couple other sources, he's got like $50,000. We already kind of knew what was going to happen. So one of our ladies that's in charge of the HUD money said that she had $500,000. And then we had another fund from the ARC, the Appalachian Regional Commission. They said they had $500,000. So now we're almost at $1 million, and he's thinking, wow, we can maybe make this happen. We're almost halfway there. And then we were able to say, Amy New, our Assistant Commissioner for Rural Development, that from our fast track funds, we were going to take an extra $1 million and make this program happen. I haven't had, I don't know too often that a 6'9", 330-pound man cries, but he did. And the whole room was in tears, and it was just such a rewarding experience. We can make things happen like that, and when government comes together, works as a team to focus on some of our needs. As a result, we're going to have this building built sometime in the next year. One of the big challenges, I'm digressing, but one of the big challenges we have in our rural communities is opioids. We have an epidemic across the state, and we have all kinds of other drug issues. We're worried that we can create this 200-person call center, recruit 220 unemployed people there. We can recruit them into the workplace. We're worried they wouldn't be able to pass the drug test. So we partnered with ETSU and the Department of Health, and we're creating what they call a therapeutic workplace, where the employer that gets to win this call center, we're going to make it so companies compete to win. When they win it, the company that wins it will be the one that gives the best services to the employees. A therapeutic workplace is where if somebody doesn't pass the drug test, you don't fire them. You send them to therapy, and you have this program where you work them back into the job, so they have hope at the end of the therapy. So there's a long digression that I wasn't planning on talking about, but I'm so excited about what we're possibly going to be what we are going to do in Hancock County. And I think it's an example of the kind of things that we could do all across the state. So now I'm going to cut some other things out, but I will say, I'll answer a couple of questions and then turn it over to you. One of the questions that I get from everybody is, how are you doing? And it's usually, especially in this group, I see so many friends. So many of you, when you ask this question, probably will ask it the way I've been getting it over the last month. You know, when we normally bump into folks, it's like, how you doing? But here, when you're running for a campaign, it's like, how are you doing? You know, it's like you just had some personal tragedy in your life. But I can tell you, I'm loving it. It's been energizing and inspiring. Every place I go someplace that you learned about somebody in the community that's doing something that they're passionate about and trying to make a difference, usually under the radar, with no pay, no compensation, just because they care. On Saturday, I was in Jamestown and Pall Mall. Met the York family. By the way, I'm kind of proud to say that the entire York family, descendants of Sergeant York, are now endorsing the campaign. But they're trying to resurrect the York Institute, the original building built in 1928 for Sergeant York, and they're trying to create a center of peace and valor. And they've got this beautiful mission where they bring people from all across the state in to help promote education and civic pride and patriotism. It's a beautiful concept, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to help them. The week before, 2 weeks before now, I went up to Johnson County. This is one of the great things that you get to do. Go to small communities that don't get a lot of attention and get to learn really what they care about. And actually the next day, I remember a newspaper asked me about what people, when I told them I've already been to 63 counties. I've been to 95 before as commissioner. I've been to 63 counties, and people ask, the newspaper asked, well, what are they saying about James Comey, or what are they saying about whatever the headline was on CNN or Fox that day? So they're not really talking about that at all. So in Johnson County, I go over to the Garden Barn. I used to sell electric fencing. Go over to the Garden Barn because wanted to see a farm store and talk to Bob that's running the place. The number one issue on his mind was that Tennessee charges sales tax on farm gates. North Carolina doesn't. So just the other day, he had loaded up $700 worth of farm gates in the back of a guy's pickup truck, and when he tried to collect the sales tax, the guy got infuriated and had him take all the farm gates off the back of the truck and drove 10 miles over to North Carolina where they don't. That's important to him. And when I travel all across the state, before I even thought about running for governor, one of the things that I was always disconcerted about was the fact that there are places in our state where you can go to the kids and say, great news, we have something called the Tennessee Promise. You can go to a technical college or community college free of charge. There's one county that I got to visit last year, Johnson County, Mountain City. There's not a college in the county. So you go to kids in Johnson County and say, great news, you can go to college for free. Bad news, no college, except you can drive to Elizabethton an hour away, which doesn't help much. Well, we're just in Johnson County, and I'm walking through the trustee's office, and I told this group of about a dozen people behind the counter there that one of my missions as governor is to make sure that we have a TCAT, a Tennessee College of Applied Technology in Mountain City, so those kids can have the education they need. And when I say that, there's this one little girl behind the counter, about this tall, really cute, 20 years old, she tells me later, and her eyes start tearing up. And she says, I wish you could have done that sooner. You know, last year, I graduated from high school, and my dream was to be a nurse. And so I was getting up at 5 a.m. every morning, driving an hour to Elizabethton, taking my classes, then driving an hour back, and having to work an 8-hour day, and I just couldn't do it. And after 4 months, I had to quit. And so now I've given up on my dream. Good news is we have an adult program now that when we get the school built, she'll be able to go back and hopefully be able to get the degree and the dream that she desires. But it's stories like that every day that you hear. So again, short as a long answer, but it's been incredibly exciting and rewarding. So I want to tell you just a little bit about some of the things we're going to focus on when we win. So we want to create, with your help, the state of opportunity. We want to make Tennessee that state where people all across the country, when you mention you're from Tennessee, I know every one of you have this experience now. When you mention you're from Tennessee, they say, oh, Jack Daniels, or oh, country music, or maybe, oh, Elvis, home of Elvis Presley. And those are all good things, but would it be nice if there was something more? When you tell them, I'm from Tennessee, and people say, oh, yeah, that's the state of opportunity. That's where everybody has the opportunity to get a great education. That's where everybody has the opportunity to get a great job. People are flocking to Tennessee to get those great jobs. And, oh, that's a state where everybody shares in the opportunity. They're not leaving people behind in Johnson County and Hancock County. Everybody's having an opportunity to succeed. And so that's our dream, that's our vision, and there's some very specific things about how we get there. So we have opportunity for better education, opportunity for better jobs, and opportunity for everyone. And each one of those, I have a metric, a scorecard that we'll be able to keep track of. And I've been told by some of my folks that are more experienced politically that this is a really bad idea. You're not supposed to have a scorecard, you're not supposed to have metrics, you're supposed to speak in euphemisms so that nobody can ever hold you accountable. So this may be a short-lived political career, probably. I'm a business guy, we're gonna have metrics. And so the metrics are, with the opportunity for better education, this is really just finishing something I started 4 years ago, and that's the drive to 55. We want to take our population from where it's at today, which is 39%, with something beyond high school, and we'll come back to that, because that's tricky, not just a 4-year degree, but something beyond high school, to 55% by the year 2025. And why that's important, as you travel all across the state as Commissioner of Economic Development, you see companies are desperate for skilled workers. If you ask, anytime somebody asks, well, what's the biggest issue challenging our state? There's a few that are very close seconds, but absolutely number one is skilled workforce. You go across the state, companies are desperate to find the skilled workers they need. So we need to go from 39% to 55%, not because it's a good idea, because it's essential for our economy and our people to get there. So a couple of quick things on how we get there. The biggest gap that we have, if you look at the gap between 39% and 55%, 60% of what we're missing is certificates, things that you get from a Tennessee College of Applied Technology or the associate's degrees. We need welders, we need mechatronics. If you go to the Tennessee College of Applied Technology in Smyrna and take a mechatronics certificate program, you graduate in 1 year, 84% of the kids graduate, which is better than any 4-year school. 84% graduate in a year and then go to work at the Nissan plant the next day one for $57,000 a year. These are great jobs. We've got a huge opportunity to improve that. Things we need to do, we've got places like Mountain City that there's no school anywhere near, so we gotta make sure it's physically closed. You got places like Knox County where there's a waiting list for welders. We got companies that are desperate for welders. You go to the school and there's a waiting list. So that we've got to make sure there's no waiting list. You go to some of our places across the state and take welding on 30-year-old equipment. Businesses complain, yeah, they got a welding certificate, but on equipment nobody's seen in 30 years. You got to make sure they have modern equipment. And then lastly, we need to make sure that we embed this at the high school level. One of the things I've learned in my public service 2 cents is that we don't really have to invent new things in Nashville. Most of the really great ideas, the ideas that we need, are already done somewhere in the state of Tennessee. It's more about finding and then scaling them. So for example, there are high schools in the state where kids are graduating with their diploma in high school and with a certificate or an associate's degree at the exact same time. If we can do it in one school, we need to do it in every school. So one of the big pushes will be to make sure that every single high school has the ability to graduate a student with a certificate in the same time as they graduate with a diploma. And we can do that. That'll be a big focus. I'm gonna just mention this, I don't normally talk about it, but since Dwight Vanderbilt's here today, just to say, also at the elementary school level, there's a possibility of a third way between public schools and your charter schools. That's usually kind of the debate that you hear a lot of people have. Because of Dwight introduced me to a gentleman named Dr. Bob Cronick, we created something here in Knoxville that's unique in the state called a community school, where you take a public school and you add extra programming on it, an extra hour of reading, an extra hour of math, an extra hour of, at Pond Gap we call it circus, which is phys ed, physics, and confidence building, and kids think it's fun all at the same time. They have a hot dinner, the parents can come and join them for dinner. The University of Tennessee provides financial literacy classes, Friends of Literacy teach GED classes. Some of our local doctors provide eye care and dental care. Boy Scouts, Big Brothers, Big Sisters all come together to help to support the school. One of the things I've found in working in educational philanthropy for years is, while yet it's important to have a great teacher and a great principal, those two things alone won't be enough if the kid comes to school beaten, hungry, bad teeth, bad eyesight, and then goes home in the afternoon in a dangerous environment. And so creating a community school where the whole community can come together to help a community do better may be the solution. We've got 14 of these now in Knoxville. I'm not here yet ready to say we're gonna run these or roll these out across the state, but we might. But I think it's another model that's happened here that I think we could take a look at. The second thing is opportunity for better jobs. If we do the first thing right, the second thing will come. I see a couple of my economic development friends here in the room, that Tim Thompson, that who went to high school or went to college with my wife, by the way. So everybody's connected here. There's a story in every face I see around the room. But, when we have a talented, trained workforce, when they have those skills they need, it makes it easy to train or to recruit students. We are employers. In the last 2 years, we recruited 50,000 new jobs to the state, which is a new record, by the way. I think this sells point. I think it's kind of helpful to have a governor that knows something about creating jobs and something about recruiting jobs to our state. And the number one job of the governor is jobs. Hopefully I've proven that I've had a reasonable success with that. But we do have some barriers. We set a goal when I was Commissioner of Economic and Community Development of being number one in the Southeast for high quality jobs. When I left, we were number 4. In spite of all that growth, we were number 4. And some of the big barriers that we have the highest business taxes in the Southeast. Of the 12 states that we compete with, our business taxes are the highest. As Commissioner, I never said that. For those that have heard me talk at economic development things, say that's new. So, because we never talked about that. But the truth is we are the highest. We can't afford to be the lowest because this is one of our primary sources of revenue, but we can be a lot more competitive. That's something that we need to look at. And then lastly, as a somebody pointed out, I'm not a small businessman anymore. You're always what you start off. So as for small businesses, my 2 sons are opening businesses. My wife just opened a business 5 years ago. We make it exceptionally hard for small businesses to get started. There's just so many rules and regulations and different departments for the city and the county and the state, and none of them talk to each other. We've got to make it easier for businesses to get started. We got to act like we're their champion and trying to help them. So a big effort will be around trying to streamline the process and then hopefully reduce the process to make it easier for small businesses. Those are the foundation of our state, our economy today, and will be in the future. And then the last thing I'll say is we want to make this the state of opportunity for everybody. We don't want to leave other communities behind. And I see folks from Campbell County here, and from Cobb County. Monroe County is only at risk, not distressed. But we have 19 counties across our state that are in the bottom 10% in the entire United States in poverty and income and unemployment. And I think many of you probably feel the same way I do. You're only as rich as your poorest neighbor. And we got a lot of neighbors that are struggling. But I believe we all come together, we can put together some programs that'll make a difference. I got started a task force about 1.5 years ago called the Rural Task Force. We brought 120 people together all across the state, people from the Farm Bureau, from TVA, from local leadership, and spent over 1.5 years working on solutions and came up with a whole range of different initiatives. Actually, I'll not go into details, but you can Google Governor's Rural Task Force. There's a 71-page document that has 31 different initiatives, and this is just the beginning. But it's about education, about developing industrial sites. It's about tourism, it's about agriculture, about education, it's about broadband, something that we got a big start on. Thank you, Dr. Briggs, for being able to help get that passed this year. Huge initiative for us. But a lot of initiatives that that I think together we can make a real difference in our rural communities. And then lastly, I'll just maybe say, you can't really be successful in any of those three if we don't do something about this opioid epidemic across our state. And that wasn't on my agenda when I started running for office. It wasn't something I really wanted to deal with or thought about a lot, but there's not a single community I go to, from Johnson County to Shelby County, that this isn't on the top of everybody's minds. And I'm hopeful that there'll be huge progress toward a solution before I get there, but if not, we're gonna declare a state of emergency. We're gonna do everything we can. We're not gonna wait till the next session to come together to come up with solutions. We're gonna create a state of emergency and do everything we can immediately to get this under control, because we can't be successful on any of those other metrics until we do. So the metrics are, we're gonna complete the drive to 55, we're gonna be #1 in the Southeast for high quality jobs. By the year 2025, we'll have 0 distressed counties. And I believe when you bring 6.6 million Tennesseans together, all on Team Tennessee, we can accomplish anything, and we will. Well, thank you guys I went way too long. Thank you guys for listening to all that.